In this video, you are going to learn how to recreate this crazy bento effect from the Apple Siri website in Framer without writing a single line of code. Well, we're gonna write a couple lines of code, but don't worry because I'm gonna give you that code, and I also created it with ChatGPT, so it's nothing crazy. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. Okay, so here we are on the official Apple Siri website, and as you can see, it is a really nice website, but it has a certain effect that is really cool, and it is right here. As you can see, this image is kind of like sliding into this bento card, which is, in my opinion, really cool. So we're gonna be recreating this. We're gonna be focusing on this one, and the other parts of the website is already created in my little starter file, but I'm gonna give you this starter file so you can follow along with this tutorial. So make sure to go down to the description. You're gonna find a link for everything. So as you can see, we have this desktop breakpoint here, and it basically has this main frame. And within this main frame, we have all the different sections. So first of all, we have the intro plus text. This includes basically the hero section, which has all these images. As you can see, these are animating in as we reload the website. It is basically done with an appear effect, with an enter animation. So you can basically do that really easily. You just set an offset, and then it will animate in from that position. Then we have this little Siri text, nothing crazy. And then we have this other part of the intro plus text section, which is actually the text section. So here we have these texts. What you can notice here is that we have this little slide in animation as we scroll down the website on certain elements. That is done with this transform effect. And we go from a Y offset of 100 and we go to 0 offset. So basically that's how we do that slide in animation as we scroll. So we have these two texts, nothing crazy again. And then we get to the section 1 where we're going to be working because here this is a section that has these texts and these bento cards. So we have a text here within the header section here. And we also have this little image, but we're not going to be doing anything with those. Then we have this text section where we see this text, and then we have the cards section that has these two cards. And then we're going to be doing actually one more card, creating it above these two cards. And that's gonna have this nice animation or effect that we see right here. So I just switched to the website that I already recreated in Framer. You can find it on siri.learnframer.site, and you can see that we have this card right here. And we're gonna basically start by creating it. So let's go back to the project, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit F on my keyboard and create a frame right here, which I can then Command and X, so cut it, and then I can select the cards section and just Command and V here, and as you can see, it is now pasted in right there, but I can just move it to the top by pressing the up arrow key. First of all, I'm going to rename it to card, not crud but card, and then I'm gonna change its fill color to this white color that we have on the page. And it will have a radius. Let's see what these cards have. So this card has 40 pixels, so this will also have 40 pixel radius. I'm gonna change the color so that you can see what I'm doing. So then I'm gonna set the width to fill, so it fills the available space. This is really useful if you want to make responsive websites, and we want to make responsive websites. But then I'm going to also add a max width to it, which is going to be 1000 pixels. So now as you can see, these are aligned right here, which is exactly what we want. So now we can fill this card up with all the details that we need. First of all, if we take a look at the completed website, we have this text here and the icon. So we're going to be adding this one first. So let's go back to the project. I actually have this one for you it is a pretty basic setup. It is a stack. It has an icon, as you can see on the left panel. I'm going to just collapse some of these things so you can see it. So we have an icon here, then we have text. It has a top row. It has two text here because you cannot add gradients to text if it is in a large text block. You cannot add these gradients to certain words. So I had to do it this way. So basically we have a top row, one text, two text, and then we have another text here underneath. But I just created it for you so you don't have to spend time with that. So we're going to be Command X here, and then we're going to be pasting it here. So as you can see, now I can just position it however I want to, but I'm going to actually turn this card frame into a stack by pressing this layout button on the right panel. And what I can do here is I can set the direction to horizontal, and then I can set the distribute to end. So now as you can see, this text is on the right side, exactly how it is right here. So now what we can do is I'm going to just slightly change the color here. I want to still be able to see it, but I'm going to just make it a bit lighter. So what we need here is basically a responsive height for this card. I want it to fit the content within itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the height to fit content. But now as you can see, we don't have any space on the top and on the bottom. So we can add that back with setting padding. So on the top and on the bottom, it's going to be 120. And we're going to have 24 on the left and on the right side. So now we can get to the exciting part, because somehow we have to create this phone that kind of slides into this bento card. So this is going to be a frame that is within this card, but it is taller, so it's gonna end here. And then we're gonna have this card on the top, and we're gonna have it on sticky positioning. So it's gonna be sticky to the top of the U port, or we can also set the top value, but I'm gonna talk about it later. So it's gonna be sticking to the top of the U port until we reach the end of this section, which is going to be right here. But I'm going to start doing it because you're going to be able to understand it easily if I also show it. So first of all, I need to create one frame here within this card. I'm going to call this sticky wrap, and then I'm going to remove its fill color, and I'm going to also make sure to add it back, because I actually realized that it is easier for you if you see the background color of these frames, because if it's transparent, then you're not going to be able to see it that easily. So I'm going to be adding it back, and then later we're going to be removing them or changing them to the appropriate colors. But first of all, I need to change it from relative to absolute, because I want to be able to move it around freely, because now I can just, reorder these, but I want to position it freely. So what I can do here is set to absolute, and then I have these pins which I can use to position it to a different position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the left pin to 56 and then the bottom pin to 0. So now as you can see, it's going to be 56 pixels from the left and 0 pixels from the bottom. Then I can also use a relative width to set 100% width, which will basically mean that it will have the same width that its parent frame has. So for example, this is its parent frame, it's the card, and it has 1000 pixels right now because that's the max width. So it's gonna also have 1000 pixels. It's gonna be slightly offset to the right because of this offset right here, because we said that it needs to be 56 pixels from the left side. But yeah, it's gonna be 100%. We're using this value here because I want it to be responsive again. As we change the width of the website, I want it to be responsive. So that's why we use 100%. And then what I need to do is to make it a bit taller. But as you can see, as I'm making it taller and as it is overflowing the card parent frame, we don't see it anymore. So what we can do is we can select the card and then we can set its overflow to visible. So now as you can see, everything that is outside of this card frame are still visible. So now I can make it a bit taller. So I need it somewhere around here. And then I'm gonna just make it a bit transparent so we can see what is underneath it. And then we can add some more frames into this sticky wrap, because we need this image right here that you can see this phone within this sticky wrap. I have this image right here, so you can also just grab it with Command and X and then just paste it right here. And as you can see, it's now right there. But what we need to do here is to wrap it in a stack, because as you can see, if we set this sticky wrap to overflow visible, because we need to set it to overflow visible because we're going to be using sticky positioning, and in order for sticky positioning to work, we're going to be setting all parent frame overflows to visible. So as you can see, as I set the sticky wrap to overflow visible, this phone image is now overflowing. Sorry, I'm moving the wrong frame. So this phone image, as I'm moving it down, it is overflowing. But what we need, as you can see here, is that it doesn't overflow, it just ends here. So how we can do that? We can easily do that by creating another frame, and we put the phone image in that frame. So you can basically do that by selecting the phone image and hitting Option Command and Enter on our keyboard. This way we are wrapping this phone image within a stack, as you can see. I'm going to rename it to phone mask because this will basically act as a mask. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to distribute start. So this phone starts from the top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a bit smaller. So as you can see, if I change the height, it is being masked down, which is exactly what we need. So if I change this height to, for example, 500, we get something like this. And then this looks really good. I'm going to set the width to relative and 100%. So it fills up the available space. And then as you can see, the phone is also growing with it, which is not what we want because now it is fill width, but we're going to actually set it to 60% width. So now as you can see, it is just 60% of its parent frame, which is this phone mask. But as you can see, it is in the middle, so I'm going to just select the phone mask and change this alignment to the left. Okay, so now this phone mask is actually absolutely positioned, so we can just move it around freely, as you can see, within this sticky wrap. But we don't want to use it this way. We need the sticky wrap to be a stack, so I'm going to click this layout. So now this phone mask is relatively positioned, so I cannot just move it around freely, but I can adjust the stack properties on the sticky wrap and set the distribute to start. So this image will basically start from the top. So now what we have here is basically something like this. As you can see, as we start scrolling down, we see this phone here, and then nothing really happens. But what we need to do here is to set this phone that we see right here, this phone mask, to sticky positioning. So this will be sticky until we reach the end of this transparent gray section, which is, as you can see, right here. So I'm going to be setting this phone mask to sticky positioning from relative. So then I'm going to inspect this, how it looks. And as you can see now, as I start scrolling down, it will be sticky and it will stick to the top of the viewport. So this is getting closer to the actual effect that we want to recreate. A quick disclaimer here that I already mentioned, but I want to say it again. In order for sticky positioning to work, we need to set all parent frames overflow to visible. So the sticky positioning frame is this phone mask. This is set to sticky. And so we need to set the sticky wrap, the card, the cards, the section, the main, and the desktop overflow to visible. So all of these need to be overflow visible, because if you don't do that, then it will basically not be sticky. So now if we go back to the phone mask, you can see that we have a top value right here that we can adjust. So for example, if we set 300 here and inspect this design, you can see that it will be sticky until this. So basically this space here will be 300 pixels. But as you can see, it's really hard to get a right value because of course this viewport will be changing. So for example, if we are looking at this on a viewport like this, then it looks perfect. It looks great. But if we are viewing it on a different device, maybe on a larger screen, then as you can see, we can't see the full phone. So that's why we cannot really work with fixed values here, because as you can see, we can only set 300 pixels, and then we can also only set the phone height to around 500 or something like that. But this doesn't need to be fixed, because as you can see, this will basically be not great if we are viewing it on a different device. So what we're going to use here is viewport height, because if I do something like 50 VH on the phone mask for the height, so 50 VH, this will basically mean that the 50% of the given viewport. So if we take a look at this right now, you can see that this phone will always be 50% of the given viewport. So as you can see, as I start making this viewport height smaller or bigger, this phone mask is also changing. So we are seeing less or more of the phone. So now all we have to do is to set this top value here to 50 VH, because then if we have 50 VH here and 50 VH also here, then we are covering the full height of the given viewport. So we're good. But as you can see, we unfortunately cannot really set 50 VH here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a code override for this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the phone mask, scroll down on the right panel, and then we're gonna add a code override. We're gonna select one. We can click the new file, new override. We can say something like top VH and then hit create. And then we're just gonna paste in this code right here and then press Command and S on our keyboard to save the code override. As you can see, this is nothing crazy. It will just add a style to this frame, which will be position sticky, and the top value will be set to 50 VH. So now we can actually go back to the frame, phone mask, and then we can apply this code override, so top VH, and then we can select the code override from here with sticky top. And now if we take a look, we can also remove, yes, we already removed the top value from here. So now if you take a look, you can see that it will perfectly cover the full viewport. And even if I change this right here, so as you can see, if I'm viewing it on a different device, I'm still covering the full viewport, which is exactly what we want. I'm gonna also have this code in the description somewhere, so you can use it in your project. Okay, so now what is left is basically creating the background color change, because we don't do that, and I think that's it. So let's take a look at what we have here. As you can see, the background color is changing as we reach this point, and I think that's it. That's all we need to do here. So I'm gonna remove the colors of these frames because we don't need them anymore. So the sticky wrap fill color will be removed. And then I'm gonna change this back to the original white color that we have. And as you can see, we have this frame right here for this cards section, which covers basically this whole section with the 3 cards. As you can see it on this website as well, it starts from here. It starts from here, from the top, and ends here. So we can create a frame here, then Command and X and paste it in within the cards, and we can rename it to background color. But now as you can see, it's again here on the bottom. I can reorder it with the arrow keys, but I don't actually want to do that. I want to set it to absolute positioning and then set all these pins to 0. So now as you can see, it covers the full frame. Now all I have to do is to move it here to the top and then remove this Z index, so it will be behind all these little cards that we have within this section. Okay, so what we're gonna do with this BG color is that we're gonna turn it into a component, because that's how we can use scroll variants to change its variant from the white background to the colorful gradient background. So we're gonna select the BG color. We can right click and create component, or we can also press Option Command key on our keyboard, and then we can press enter to create the component. So here the variant one will be called white, but we're gonna actually remove this fill color from here, and we're gonna create an additional frame within this component. This will be called white, and then it's gonna take up the available space by setting all these pins to 0 again. So as I said, this will be the white one, so I'm gonna set the white color that we use within this project, which is this right here. So I'm gonna just paste it in right here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set a border radius for this component, which will be 60 pixels, but only on the bottom, because as you can see on the website, we have this corner radius right here. So then what we can do is we can duplicate this white frame by pressing Command and D, and then we can rename it to gradient. And then I will go to the fill color and then change it to a linear gradient. And we're gonna start from white, which is perfect. Then we're gonna add another point here, which will be this color. So I'm gonna paste in this one here. Then we're gonna have another color here that will have this color. And then the last color will be this right here. So this will be the gradient. And then what I'm gonna do here on the white variant is I'm gonna change the opacity of the gradient frame to 0. So only the white is visible. Then I'm gonna create another variant, which will be called the gradient. And then I'm gonna go into the component and change the gradient's opacity to 1. So now we have this BG color component set up. Now what we need to do is to change its variant with scroll variants. So let's do just that. So now as you can see, if we take a look at this, we change the color as we reach kind of the end of this Hey Siri text right here. So as you can see, I'm reaching the end of this text and the color of the background is changing. So we can actually do that by creating a scroll section within this text. So I'm gonna be selecting this icon plus text frame, and I'm gonna add a frame there. So I'm gonna just create a frame here, Command and X, and then try to select this icon and text, and then Command and V right here. So now as you can see, we have this little frame here. I'm gonna give it a color again, just so we can see what we're doing. I'm gonna set it to width fill, and then the height will be just 1 pixel or maybe 2, or we can make it a bit bigger so we can actually see that it is there. So let's have 10 pixel height. And then we're gonna call this trigger, or maybe BG trigger. And then we can also give it a scroll section, because then we can use this scroll section to trigger the background color change. Because what we can do is we can select the background color component, and then we can add a scroll variant effect to it. This can have the trigger of section in view, and then here we can select a section which will be BG trigger. You remember we just did it. This is that section here. Then we can basically change it to gradient, and basically we're done. Oh no, we actually have to also set the viewport. So what we need is the bottom of the viewport, because we want to trigger the animation or the background change when we reach the bottom of the viewport with this little section. So if we take a look at this right now, you can see that as I reach this section, which is basically this little frame right here, we change the color. But it is a bit too fast as I change the color, so I can change the transition of this component to make it a bit smoother. So I can click the primary variant, transition, ease in and out, and then I can have a bit longer animation. So this is basically what we will have. So if we take a look at this again, you can see that the background color change is much slower and it looks much better. So now we can remove the color of this BG trigger frame, and we can take a look at this finished website. And as you can see, everything works exactly the way we want it to work. And yeah, we only had to write a couple lines of code, which isn't really crazy. And I'm pretty sure that Framo will soon introduce that feature where we can actually set age right here, because now we unfortunately can't. So yeah, basically that was it. That was a tutorial. We created this crazy bento card effect from the Apple Siri website. Make sure to go down to the description because I have a free course on Framer which covers all the fundamentals. Maybe it's not out yet, but make sure to check out framer.university because it might be released by the time you watch this video. Other than that, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, make sure to press the like button, subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.